Hi, here's a quick tutorial on making a century bead. You need a work surface. I just have a plain white tile here with a little rubbery mat underneath to keep it from sliding. I use a glass plate. You'll need this to create the friction that creates the swirl of the century bead. You need some conditioned polymer clay, and I have a pearl, which is my favorite, and a little bit of scrap orange here, which I'm going to show you a couple little tricks. Since I have been doing these for a few years, I've learned a few little tips that kind of help keep you straight. So here's another tip. If you want to make your beads all the same size, maybe you're making planning to make a strand of beads, roll your clay out on the same thickness and use a little cutter to cut out your squares or circles or whatever. It doesn't matter as long as you're consistent, and that way you know that your little beads will all be the same size. So here's my little bit of purple, here's my little bit of pearl, and basically I am just going to kind of roll these around and kind of squeeze them together in a little ball. And the magic is through the magic of friction. So there's my little ball. Here's my clear glass plate, and the reason I like the clear glass plate is because I can see what I'm doing, and basically you always want to go the same direction, so I've just trained myself. It's comfortable for me to go counterclockwise. Sorry, my rings bother me. Alright, so here we go. Basically keep the pressure about the same, and the top tile will do the work. Friction begins to pull the clay around. You see that the bead underneath is becoming a bicone, and that's what you want it to do. And slowly the friction will pull the clay around and it will start to form kind of a wave pattern, which is pretty neat. And the more you spin, the more the curl of the wave appears and the more the clays are mixed. And it is doing the same thing underneath, which I can't show you at the moment, but I will show you here in a second. And so you just keep going. And century bead, because theoretically I suppose you're supposed to do this about 100 times in order to get that curl that you're looking for. So if you slow down here a little bit, you can see that it's got a purple wave on a white background. You flip it over, another purple wave on a white background. I'm going to put it back to the original direction, and you could stop right there. You could run a needle tool through here and make a bead. You could flatten it a little bit, which some people like to do. I like to do that sometimes, flatten it, and it would be great just like that. But I've been making these for a few years, and so I've learned a couple little fun tricks. So say purple and white is great, but you want to add some color. I've got these little orange, this is scrap clay that I've cut into little strips, and so I'm going to show you two tricks. One is that you can now take your bead with its two sides and squash it into a little square. And why on earth would you want to do that? Well, if you put either little curl on either side and you start your process again, it will do, whoops, hold on a sec, sorry, gotta get a little bit rounder there, it wasn't cooperating. Start to do your plate rotation again, and a neat thing happens. Those two curls start to blend together and become 4 curls, which gives another neat effect. And I kind of discovered this by accident, and I really like it, and I almost always do it now just because I think it looks so neat when you're making handmade beads. So it's pulling that curl around, and you can see what a much prettier swirl we've got there than we had originally. So that's another way to do it. And then thirdly, you can squash this all over again, and you can take one of your colored strips, your contrasting colored strips, and put it around like a little belt. Mush it together again and set the ball so that the belt is going around the bead, and start swirling again. And now you've introduced a third color, and depending on how you manipulate the top glass, and if you don't like it, you can always stop and roll it into a ball and start again. That's the neat thing about polymer clay. It's really forgiving. But as you start to swirl, you'll see that it's starting to pull that orangey, pinky orange color scrap right into the mix. And now your 2-color bead is suddenly 3 or more colors. Pretty neat, huh? Same thing again. Flatten it just a little bit. Run a needle tool through it and think about how, if it is a bead, how would you like to string it? Would you want the wave facing you? Would you want it facing away from you, to the side? And run your needle through that way. So hope that helps. And if you have any questions, please contact me and I'll be happy to try to talk you through it. It's pretty simple, and goodness, if I can do it, anybody can. Thanks.